welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I'm Nessa. Drew won't be able to join us today, so it's us two and a special guest. But before we introduce her, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the situation happening in Gaza at the moment. I feel like I wanted to do this last week, and I just didn't know how to fit it into the topics we discussed. But the situation has gotten worse. This has been weighing really heavily on my heart, and I feel like I have a small platform. I should at least try and talk about it and bring some more awareness to it if it needs more awareness. There's a couple of accounts I follow on Instagram, one of which she posts updates every morning. I check every morning, and things are not looking great out there. I just hope people are listening to. Sorry. I hope people are paying attention and doing what they can to try and stop this. Call your representatives if you haven't. Please, boycott companies. Do what you can. Anyways, so in hockey news, today we have Lauren joining us, who is from SDPN.
Hi, yes, I'm Lauren. I work with Game Over, Toronto, by SDPN. And I've followed you guys for a while, and I knew you guys did a podcast, so I very audaciously reached out and said I would love to be on your show at some point, and so here we are.
And here you are.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So I guess let's just start out with you as a Leafs fan and how you're feeling about the season so far. I know you guys had a bit of a shakeup in the off season, and things have not been too great over the last forever.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting season so far. It's only we're only game 11, but it's already game 11, which is, I suppose, both good and bad. Obviously with lots going on in the world, sometimes it can be difficult to come on and just sort of try and make light of hockey things. But, obviously, for myself, I think that hockey is one of those things that, even though some things might be going on around the world, which, are not fun to deal with. But what I try and do is I always try to give myself a little bit of time to just not think about anything else, think about a sport that I love and I have loved for a very long time. I always jokingly say that, to the detriment of my father, I became a Leafs fan despite his best intentions. One of my very first memories was the missed call in 1993, and ever since then my dad has not so lovingly had the Leafs in the background. But I unfortunately grew up about an hour and a half away from Toronto, so it was just, even though technically the Buffalo Sabres were closer to me, there was no way I could be a Buffalo fan. So yeah, I grew up a Leaf fan, and now I'm lucky enough to be able to talk about it, as kind of a side gig, but obviously the job that I actually love more than anything else, which is a great thing. And working with SDPN has been so good. And so getting into this season, it's my second season with Game Over, which is, it's been awesome so far. It's a little bit unfortunate that they haven't been better. We did have a tumultuous offseason. I mean, the Leafs get further than they have in a while in the playoffs last year, which, sure, that was great. And I was actually at the Maple Leaf Square in game 5 when they tied it up with like less than 10 minutes to go, with me and my sister and a couple of our friends and my cousin. And it was like, holy cow, it was like such a great time. And then, the offseason happens, and Kyle Dubas has a press conference, which would, be the last showing of him as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs as an organization. And he is not so exquisitely terminated and sent off, and was replaced with Brad Treliving, who made some decisions to re-sign some people and to let some other people go. And so it's been interesting to see how those decisions have happened, because in years past, the same problems have existed, but now it's a different person dealing with them than has been in the last several years. So unfortunately, the repercussions have not been positive like we would have thought. Like, maybe someone else coming in could have, looked at it in a different light and brought in more of the things that we as Leaf fans thought that everybody was aware of. And instead, it seems to have kind of taken a different direction. And so it's only game 11, but again, it's already game 11, and the Leafs are not exactly where we would have hoped that they would be. And now, having said that, at the beginning of the season, like, the evidence was there that it wasn't necessarily going to work out. It was kind of this mishmash of pre-existing problems with a couple new guys that were rumored to have been tough and very good playmakers at the same time, and that has since come out to be a bit of a lie, which is unfortunate. And so there's nothing that we as fans can do except just pray to some cosmic being to save us from Treliving's decisions.
That's funny. Well, so your season started pretty great though. Like, Matthews had two hat tricks in consecutive games.
Right. So he starts the season with 6 goals in 2 games, which, as a Leafs fan, let's go. And then he had 1 goal in the next 7. And then now the good thing is the last 2 games he's had multi-goal games, which is great. But it's the problem is, at this point in the season, is that the big guys are going, right? Like, the core 4 or the core 5, if you include Morgan Rielly, have had something like 28 of all of the goals that the Leafs have had so far this season, and that bottom 6 has been not whatever you
just
adjective
not.
you
just not
whatever adjective you want to use. They're not good. They're not cohesive. They're not.
They take up space.
They're an investment, not a good one. And it just doesn't seem to be going well. And so it's not necessarily the top guys that are the problem now. I mean, the problem is that all of our money is tied up in a few players, and Kyle Dubas did a very good job in previous seasons of covering up a little bit of that problem by getting really good players for really cheap. And the players that were brought in are not that same caliber of player. And they tried to bring it in as a different direction, right? Like, the Leafs, even though you guys are, out in the West Coast, the Leafs are pretty soft in terms of stick-uppedness, and I can't remember if you guys are allowed to swear, but just general give a crap level is not exactly what we would hope it would be. And so they bring in someone like Ryan Reeves to, try and boost the locker room and get guys to fight their own battles. And it just has fizzled out like a bad, cheap firework, unfortunately.
So I definitely have a whole list of questions and follow-ups.
Okay.
I have building up. Well,
I got a full water bottle. All right. Let's go.
First off, you talked about your upbringing and how you ended up being a Leafs fan despite, your dad's protest. Now, is that because your dad is a Sabres fan, or
no? He was 7 the last time the Leafs won the cup, and believed for a long time that the Leafs should have won many cups, and was a Leafs fan. And he didn't want me to be a Leafs fan because he didn't want me to hurt. In all honesty, and that's what it was. Okay. It wasn't because he wasn't a Leafs fan or thought the Leafs were bad, or that he was a Habs fan or something nasty like that. No. He was trying to save me from myself. And,
right.
And
makes sense.
I didn't listen. Good job, me. And now here we are. I have this sickness.
I mean, there's a number of things that you already spoke about that I know me and Nessa can relate with as Sharks fans. If you're not familiar with it, our Doug Wilson era, there were a lot of great things, and then towards the end, there were a lot of not so great things, and now we are paying for it. And in terms of locking up certain players, granted, you guys locked up players that actually could have potential. It's just something is not clicking, something is not happening.
Right.
Versus we locked up players that should have never been locked up. They were bad and now horribly aging contracts, no movement clauses, like the whole shebang. And now, because we're in sunny California, of course no one wants to leave. Like,
right,
they're not going to waive that unless, I mean, well, this season, if it continues to go down the landslide to which it has been over, it was steady and now it's a free fall over the last two games. So it really is going to be a test if it continues to go that far down, like horrendously. Like, I could see us losing 10 to whatever to like this is going to pain me to say, but to like a Vegas or to like, like Boston, I don't know if they're as good as they were last season in the regular season, but like, it's like one of those like, cool. I mean, that sucks, but it was a really, really good team. Not to say that the Canucks or the Penguins are not, a competitive team. It's just the Penguins are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference right now. Like,
right. And now
go ahead.
Sorry. No, please. Sorry. I think the Canucks thing is a bit of them just being on a heater.
They are on a heater, and if Drew was here, he would let you know that we were having some fun banter in his first episode on the pod as a host, and we were just like, he was talking about something and like, his thoughts on it, and we were just in a worse spot. So we're just like, yes, of course it could be worse. Like, look at us. You could be us. And he's like, listen, like, it's going to be bad in a month. Just let me have this.
Yeah.
But what was my other thing? So, and then you mentioned Ryan Reaves, which interesting choice, because as Sharks fans, we had many of encounters with him when he was on Vegas. Mm-hmm. And really, if like he was just there to kind of do something sometimes, but like he wasn't actually like doing anything in the progression of like being productive a big, scary on the pylon. Team. Yeah. And same thing as when he was on the Wild. Same thing as when he was on the Rangers. So when the Leafs picked him up, I was just like, oh, God, are we going for this whole, like, as you said, they're a bit soft in comparison to, other teams in the conference. And, and the Rangers kind of dealt with that like a couple of years back, which is kind of why they also brought in Reaves. Like all this, like, the teams feel like we're just missing this one little element. We just need the one guy who's going to be on the ice for like 10 minutes a game. That is really going to push us in the right direction. But I saw that Reaves isn't even in your lineup. So I don't know how he's going to help with that part when he's not even playing. And then I saw that just this morning. So we kind of are like befriended a Red Wings podcast like last season. So we kind of like get most of our Red Wings information through them.
Right.
But one of the topics that I saw earlier this week is about the state of Bertuzzi. And I'm getting two different sides of this story because obviously the Red Wings are like, oh, sucks to see him leave, but it is what it is. And then I guess I want your take in terms of your feelings on Bertuzzi.
So So there's so much. It's like the reference from The Simpsons of like all of Mr. Burns' diseases are all stuck in a door. there's so many thoughts, and there's only so much space in my mouth for them. So Tyler Bertuzzi, when the signing was made, I actually thought that it was a pretty good signing. He had a heck of a playoffs last year with Boston. Not a Boston fan, in case that wasn't obvious. And so when the Leafs signed him, I was like, okay, well, that's not a bad waste of money. Like, I know that when we have played Detroit, because obviously being in the same, division as them, we play Detroit last year before he was on Boston, and then Boston fairly frequently. And so I have known for a while that Tyler Bertuzzi is a bit of a rough and tumble player, but is very skilled offensively. So when that signing was made, I was pretty jacked about it. I was like, okay, well, this could be pretty good. Similar thing with like Max Domi. Okay, another signing that Treliving that was brought in. Now that's a little bit different because Max Domi's prodigal son of Ty Domi, who is most people my age's favorite player growing up. Like people my age, their favorite player growing up was either Darcy Tucker, Ty Domi, Matt Sundin, Doug Gilmour. Like it was one of those four. And Ty Domi was this little, just like built like a brick outhouse, but like was somewhat skilled, but like was ready to fight anybody for the guys on his team. And so Max has played on all these different teams in the league, and we've kind of always secretly wanted Max to come play as a Leaf because even though he's a different player than his dad, he has had years and there have been parts of his hockey career where he has been a prolific player. Like last year in Dallas in the playoffs and before that, he was pretty good. I think he got something like 25 goals last year. Like not a point a game player, but like pretty good and short and stocky and like not the same level of ready to fight, but will stand up to someone, right? It's the whole like, if someone's going to grab your guy by the collar, you want someone that's going to either push them back or, punch them in the face. Not that I like that in hockey, but that's part of the game, unfortunately. And Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi were players where we were like, okay, well, they've had patches in their career where they've been these very good players. And this is something that we've needed, right? We need someone that's going to fight back. Like it's kind of embarrassing, but earlier this season, I don't even remember what team it was against. It was against like Nashville or the Kings or something. And there was like a scrum that happened, and Mark Giordano, like oldest player in the league, Mark Giordano, you see him like literally come in and Superman tackle like someone on the other team because someone was roughhousing one of the Leafs. And it was awesome. Like Leafs fans, we lost our minds because we don't usually have people like that are willing to go into the fray, and people that have been that for us previously, because they're the only player doing it, are singled out. Michael Bunting, right? When Michael Bunting came and played for the Leafs, he was very good for us. But because he was the only person that was willing to like shove back and stand their ground and like give it back a little bit, not like be people that start the fray, but are willing to like stand up for themselves in it. And he was thrown in the box and became like the whipping boy for NFL refs. Like he couldn't get calls and it was called if you breathe too hard. And so, the whole thinking of bringing some of these players in that were skilled, but also had this maybe, tough guy upswing, that maybe by proxy, some of that would rub off onto the team. And instead you have Ryan Reeves like fighting in the first two games and then just like turning into a ghost. So like, I don't know if it's just like people come to the Leafs and it's how soft our pillows are and like how good they're taken care of by their trainers. But like, holy banana cakes, does it just fall off? Like same thing with Tyler Bertuzzi, nothing. Same thing with Max Domi, nothing. Like the other day, Timothy Liljegren, I'm on like such a soapbox right now, I'm sorry. Timothy Liljegren gets hauled down by Brad Marchand. Timothy Liljegren gets hauled down by Brad Marchand 8 feet from Wes McCauley. No call is made because they're best buddies and send each other's wives Christmas gifts every year, I'm sure. And Liljegren is helped off the ice, carried down the hallway, and who comes to his rescue 20 minutes later? John Klingberg, guys. Like, there's, like, Marchand was on the ice the next shift and got a chance on goal. Sorry.
I feel like you were bringing in the spirit of Steve Dangle there.
Yeah, Steve is a buddy of mine. Well, not a buddy of mine. Obviously I work for him and we've met a few times. And it's kind of weird how similar we are, but Anyway, thank you. That's a compliment. Thank you. Steve is a great person. Steve is a great person.
That's so funny. Tell
Ask
us
me
how
how
you
I'm
really
feeling.
feel. Yeah, like we obviously, because we're Sharks fans and we had to deal with Ryan Reeves when he played for Vegas for
Right.
however many years. He's not a player we like.
Right.
But I feel like he actually did something when he was on Vegas. He, especially when
Oh no.
you good?
Yeah, sorry. I hit the button.
When we had Kane on the team, they, for some reason, their personalities did not mix well at all. They were very feisty with each other online, on the ice. It added to the drama, right? It made the rivalry fun, I guess. But I feel like ever since Reeves left Vegas, he kind of just fell off. Or at least it started happening maybe a season before they let him go. But I still think it's funny seeing posts on Twitter trying to defend, like, oh, everyone's so scared of Ryan Reeves. I bet you like imagine if he tried doing that if Reeves was on the ice. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And then everyone's like, well, where is he? We're waiting.
Shaking his fist up in the press box. I'll get you after the game.
Well, and that's just it, right? And it's like, so like Leafs fans were all jacked up, but like, yeah, Reeves is gonna be on our team. No one's gonna with us. And then it's like Mugatu from Zoolander. It's like, am I taking crazy pills? Like, you're supposed to be sticking up for us here, and you're sitting on the bench like doing nothing. Ugh.
So sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm glad for you that he is no longer your problem, but like, damn it, now he's mine. And for like 3 years, not like, oh, it's a 1-year deal. 3 years for I think like $1.5 million.
Maybe he's getting ready to retire.
So
Director
let's go
of not
back
screwing around. Is that what he's going to be? Director of not screwing around.
Let's go back to the change that was made in the off season. How do you feel about that? And then let us know your thoughts on some of the signings that were made. I mean, obviously we know your thoughts on Reeves, but
so I mean, the Kyle Dubas firing was interesting. Like, I don't think Dubas was the problem. I think Dubas was a very good GM. I think that at the time, I thought maybe, I mean, the problem with this whole thing is that you've now asked me after I've watched the press conference 100 times and completely overanalyzed it like it's a Taylor Swift song, right? Like, I've meted this stupid basically exit interview. And in the interview, Kyle Dubas actually says, like, at that point, it's clear that the experiment with the big four has failed, and alludes to the idea of considering trading somebody. Basically saying anybody is on the table except for Matthews, in not so few words. And then this other thing happens where he doesn't know if he's going to be black, blah, 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 blah. I think that was just a razz. But so the decision is made to fire Kyle Dubas. And like, most of us were not excited about it because none of us really think that what happened is Kyle Dubas's fault. And so at the same time, we're not overly excited about the fact that Dubas is now, less than 3 days later, part of the Penguins in the same like conference. Great. We now have to deal with the fact that someone else is going to be brought in, and then it's announced that it's Brad Treliving, and most Leafs fans, I think, to some degree, were not all that jazzed about it, for the simple reason of the problems that exist on the Calgary Flames are largely in part of decisions that Brad Treliving made and the kind of culture around his team that he fostered. And so immediately, like, there's a couple of little green flags going up, but a couple of little red flags too. And so, at first we're like, okay, well, that's not a big deal. he says the right things. He says what we want to hear when he comes in and does the press conference. But it seems like, and now after even though we're only 10 games in, it seems like the decisions that are being made and the decisions that some of the decisions that Kyle Dubas made in terms of sticking to his guys in a la the big four plus Morgan Riley isn't actually his decision, and that it's Brendan Shanahan's, because True Living came in sort of with singing this sort of different tune, and now it's just kind of like, it's more of the same, but worse. Because at least Kyle Dubas was getting people that were doing well, that could play well, right? Like the Kelly Yarncrook signing. Thank goodness he made that deal, because the Leafs would be up the creek and in the same position probably as the Calgary Flames right now if that signing isn't made. Because the other signings that True Living made were not good, right? Like the John Klingberg signing it's not the worst signing that he's made, but like we didn't need another knockoff Tyson Barrie. Like Tyson Barrie didn't do well here, so like why are you getting Tyson Barrie 2.0? Like at least Klingberg will like throw a hit.
Maybe this time.
Maybe this time I'll be lucky. That's what it's like. It's like every team of the Leafs is singing cabaret behind the scenes.
That is what he did right before he made the call.
I hope you don't get demonetized for that. I'm sorry.
It's a cover. I'm just kidding.
Right? I don't get to do show tunes on my other show. Woohoo!
Yeah, like a lot of what you're kind of talking about. I mean, we've kind of experienced that over here. Like right now, with the situation going on with the past 2 games have been not great at all. Like it's beyond unacceptable. We know this team is supposed to be not great this year, even though I know the media's got to kind of give us that sense of optimism. I was saying, like,
they lie and lie and lie. They lie to all of us.
They said, "Oh, this guy could thrive here."
Oh my god!
And then maybe flip him at the trade deadline if he does
false
well.
Bill
So
of
then
goods,
you're like,
I tell you.
"Yeah,
False
sure, I'm down. I'm behind it." And then the season starts, and you're like, "What is happening?"
I was telling Nessa, what was it, like a week or so ago, because I kind of tune into pregame now because we have Tara Sloan, and she is a darling. I love her.
I have her on Game Over tomorrow.
Nice. Have fun. Say hi.
I've never talked to her. I'm like so. Excited.
She's so fun. She's great. She
is lovely. She's a genuine person, but she's obviously a TV personality, and like some of the things she'll say, I'm like, oh, you're so cute, Tara. I almost believe that. But I love her. I love that she makes me smile, even though I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, but
I
you're
love
the
you
reason
even when
why
you lie
I
to my
tune
face.
in.
I love you even though you lie to my face.
You make this team worth watching.
Yeah.
Right now.
I'm just looking. I'm not ignoring you. I was pulling up the cap friendly for the Sharks.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
So
no, please. We don't need to know.
No. It's okay. You have like a good amount of picks. Okay. You'll be okay. This is me. See, at least I'm not lying to you. I got nothing to gain here. Like you have a couple of really good picks coming up. You only have like 4 people on no moves? That's not too bad.
Now we do.
So listen. Over the last this ties into my question for you in terms of like your transition, because we went through a transition from Doug Wilson, who he did a lot of great things, and then
mind you, he's with the Penguins as well now,
and then it just wasn't really working out to the end, and he went through a health situation, and as much as we were concerned about him, the fact that it led to him needing to step away, it was almost like a godsend. That good, because we really need a change. And it was like, it's not that he wasn't trying to do something, it's just he got himself into this corner, and then the owner of the Sharks was like, no, well, I'm not gonna let you tank this team. Like, we need to win. So his hands were tied. both his doing and also the owner's doing. And
Right.
so this led to an opportunity where you bring in Mike Greer, and, you know, I'm still on the Greer train, you know, like he was handed this team that the moves he's making is needed, and it's gonna look a lot worse before it gets better.
Yep.
But I have liked the short contracts. A lot of the long ones are
Manageable
of leftovers from Doug Wilson era.
Yeah.
So I mean,
like you definitely have like a good amount of like veterans and young guys. Like you have a decent amount of players like under 25, which is good. You got a couple good stay-at-home defensemen, right? Like Jan Root is a heck of a player. And like your goalie situation isn't terrible either. Again, it's young. Like, listen, you have so much cap space. Like, let's just talk about how much cap space. Like at the end of this season, you'll have $17 million in cap space on your forwards.
And
Can we talk about how
that's definitely been like over the last couple of years, like we've been making moves to eventually get into the place where we can start building up. But we needed to go beyond the floor, and it's just gonna look really bad for a while.
Yep.
But there is hope. Where I'm looking forward to when all of that like dead cap space and like the buyouts and Couture and Vlasic maybe deciding I really can't stand this anymore.
Trade me, yeah. And then you get a couple of young guys, you get some picks, you start over. Like, and even though it sucks, like it is possible to tank and still like and still make it like a place people want to go. Like, heck, man, I tell you, if Toronto had the weather that California has, you couldn't stop people from signing here. Like, there's different
already
things
can't.
No, I just like you know, San Jose, like when I was a kid, like there were actually a significant amount of kids in my Canadian, like small town boony elementary school, like had Sharks jerseys.
It was just for the colors, though.
It's a nice logo.
Just take the dub, okay? Things like that, you gotta take the dub. And you know, sometimes you have to suck to get good. Like, listen, I somehow managed to watch the Leafs through like the 2010. There's basically from like 2009 until like 2014. They were so bad. Oh my god. But then out of that, some of the players that you get are worth it, right? Like, I mean, there's no Connor Bedard's coming up every single year. But the fact of the matter is that basically every draft pick now is so much better than they were like 15 years ago. You know, like, and there's so many opportunities when it comes to the draft. Like, you guys have, I mean, I forgot about your buyout history. I'm sorry. I scrolled down and I was like, oh,
we try to shove that under the rug.
Yeah.
Don't look here.
So it's like any family. Okay, cool. Right, got it.
We don't talk about the buyout.
Right?
No, I mean, a lot of what you're saying is like, we definitely agree. Those are like the things we keep at the forefront to kind of like
the small match you hold on to in the corner.
Right.
It's almost here,
but
baby.
It's like right now we're in a spot where I don't personally agree that changing the coach is the answer. It's going to be like a minor answer, but like I don't know. Like we've only had him for like 1 year, and the team has changed significantly from the previous season to even now. There's so many different guys, and we know after watching hockey forever that it takes time for these guys to build chemistry. It takes time to learn this system. Like, you know, when like you have like the trade deadline and someone comes in and you've like seen them from afar and you get really excited that they're going to be in your team, and then they don't do the exact same thing immediately when they get on their team, and the guys are just like, well, what is this? Like, oh, it's a bad trade, blah, blah, blah. Like, we can even say like how Nessa's been kind of like the voice of reason to one of our like Devils friend, where she's telling them like, don't worry, Timo's gonna heat up, this is just how he does things in the beginning. Well, and it's like, that's just the nature of it. So I just right now I can almost like not even go on Sharks Twitter because people are being like, oh, it's Quinn's fault, oh, it's Mike Greer's fault, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Last night it was Carlson's fault. Oh my god.
Like, how dare he leave this team? Like,
no, actually, Carlson came to play at SAP Center for the first time since being traded away. And, you know, they did the whole tribute video for him. Freaking dude scored 101 points last season, and he was still booed by the fans.
He got
because
booed?
they're still mad.
Booed.
Because there's people in the Sharks fandom who never liked the Carlson trade.
Because they associate
so then
us
you
losing.
should be cheering that he's gone. Hello, McFly. Oh my god.
They associate us losing Pavelski to, you know, having Wilson getting what's his face, Carlson. But it's like, I don't know how many times we have to explain to you that Carlson was not the reason that we didn't keep Pavelski. It was Kane, and look how that turned out. Whatever. It's.
I have feelings
and it's
about that
also
guy.
Carlson's fault that Timo is not with us.
Yeah.
And we should have definitely kept both of them, because no matter what this team does, no one is going to be happy.
It's yeah, dumpster fire over here, and the fans just don't know who to blame anymore since Carlson's left.
They just need to shove energy in a certain direction. They're like, this will make me feel better until tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, because it's too hard to just be like, it's all of it. It's all of it. Burn it all down.
It's true though.
Trade
It
us
is
to
all of
Atlanta.
it. Hey. Like, no one
I'm
on the
saying
team...
some people would do that. It's not
Just-
reasonable, but some people would do that.
Watching the last couple of games, this team has absolutely no spark right now. They're really just skating around in circles out there. Like, actually, I'll take that back. Yesterday during the first period was the most jump I've had in they've had in their game since the third game of the season or something. They actually had a little bit of fight in them. They came out the second and it was all gone. And it's just so.
And then in the third, they were just like, "Yeah, let me
Here,
try and
score
defend
another
against
one.
you.
There
Wave
you
my
go."
stick around in your general direction." I was like,
It's so
okay.
depressing.
Yeah. It was rough. I did catch the highlights of that, but I did not.
What highlights? You mean the lowlights?
I had to see for myself.
Why? To
I
make
gotta
fun of
see
us?
it. No, I can't help it, right? Like, I mean, the Game Over chat, like, where all of the Game Over hosts talk, it's like, it doesn't stop.
It is a bit of a dumpster fire. You kind of have to look at it.
Yeah. Well, it's something that everybody's going to want to talk about. Sorry.
They
And
made
they have
history
been.
last night.
They have
Everyone's
been.
going to want to talk about it.
Hey,
The
man.
wrong kind of history.
Listen, I got 2 words for you people. David Ayers, okay? You want to talk about making history. Woof. That's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, that guy's jersey. Just kill me.
All right, let's shift gears here, because I want to ask you about your time with SDPN. Like, we had Kaya on, I think earlier this season,
I
right?
love Kaya.
She is a trip.
It trips me out how
And-
young she is. She doesn't act
Right.
her age. She's like an
Okay.
old video gamer lady like me, and then I'm like, you're 14 years younger than me. Yeah.
There was a little bit of a discussion in our Discord, because some of our other friends, like, you know, like we have our own little like queer space that we talk about stuff, and they were listening to the pod, and you know, our pod is also available for like video,
Right.
and we were talking about the book talk stuff when she was on, and I don't remember what set her off, but I think it was because basically the person who was at the face of the book talk thing,
Right.
I ended up finding out that she is much older than I would have otherwise presumed someone with this sort of like presence or personality or whatever she was doing. Like obviously, okay, you must be much younger because you haven't realized how stupid this would be as an adult. But she was like 26 or 27, and Kaya just erupted going like, "What? I'm 20!" And we just, both me and Nessa were just like,
What? You're a baby.
I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, we all of us in Game Over had that. Like, it was a thing. Like, I remember, like, because when we first met on SDPN, at one point when we all got hired, we had this one video call where everybody was on it. And we, like, went around and talked about each other, and we all introduced ourselves. And it was like, that's when we made the WhatsApp, like, one of the 50 group chats that I have with that group. And Kaya introduced herself, and we were like, da 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 da. And she was like, oh, people my age. And I was like, oh, like, how old are you? Because she seems so much older. She's like, I'm 19. And I was like, what? Oh, wow. Yeah. She's like, yeah, it's funny. She has, like, such, like, I don't know how to say this, but, like, millennium video gamer vibes. And she's like a child. I'm like, I love that girl. She kills me. Oh my gosh, Kaya's hysterical.
She comes up with the most interesting phrases just out of nowhere. It's like, what did you say?
She's so funny. There was one Game Over. I think it was like one of her first streams. I'll have to find it. I'll send you guys the link and you can post it or whatever. I'll comment on it or whatever. And she literally, like, the video opens and she's like, I just need a second. And she literally goes and stands on her bed and she just screams. And then she comes back and sits in front of my microphone. She's like, so, welcome to Game Over. My name's Kaya. And she just goes. And I was like, you're a genius. Like, yeah, she's great. She kills me. Oh,
she's really funny.
She's a riot.
So tell us a little bit about your experience so far on Game Over, because I will say that when I first saw that, I was like, man, that would be so cool. Like, to kind of have something like that where like I think that would be fun to have a reaction like after a game for like for the Sharks. I mean, we wouldn't be able to say very much like these days, but it's just, I loved the fact that it was, you know, it's just giving fans the opportunity on like a bigger platform to just kind of like, you know, not only like build your own sort of like presence in this hockey world, but as I told you, you know, offline, I really liked the diversity of it, because that was one of the biggest reasons why me and Nessa started this podcast, is like we like when, you know, allies and people that, you know, aren't of a certain color, like are talking about topics related to diversity and inclusion, but some of those topics I feel like it's would be better approached with someone who actually has that experience to to add those extra layers. And not to say that like your platform is kind of like that's the direction, but it's just the presence of the diversity across the panel on top of it being like fan run. Like, I thought that was like the coolest thing when like I saw that Game Over started. So
yeah, I mean thank you for saying nice things. First of all, thank you for saying nice things. Second of all, yes, you absolutely could do a Game Over after, or your own version of Game Over afterwards. You can't do Game Over because I think that's copywritten. But like, why can't you? Because of it, hey, think of it this way: the Sharks are not going to be, not to make a pun here, at the bottom of the tank for forever, right? Like, and at some point they're going to come up and they're going to have a resurgence, and when everybody comes back to the tank, and you're like already popular, just saying. Yeah. So working for Game Over, working for SDPN has been, I hate to say this, but nothing but a awesome and remarkable experience. I have been a big fan of Steve Dangles for a long time. I actually met him like before COVID, doing the book signing for his book that came out. So I knew of him for probably, I've watched his LFRs for something like, this is embarrassing, but like 8 years or something. Like, I've been a fan of his for a long time. And I've obviously watched the SDP for a long time, the Steve Dangle podcast with Adam and Jesse, for just about as long. So I've been a follower of that whole thing, of that group of people, and their way they went about doing their business, the way they went about talking about their show, or talking on their show about being Leafs fans and having opinions, and understanding that it is from a fan perspective, right? We never shy away from the fact that all of the hosts for all of our shows are all fans. Like, That's part of the reason why the material is so good, because we all do in our own way have some skin in the game when it comes to our team. We all really give a damn about the team that we're talking about, which makes it really easy sometimes to talk about your team even when the team isn't doing good, right? Like, listen, we had a team last year for the Canucks, and we have a team this year and last year for the Flames, and somehow Andrew Berkshire manages to talk about the Habs for 35 minutes a night, and I can't stand that team, right? And so it's just about like finding people that care about it, but that are good people too. Like, the way I got involved with SDPN was literally just like, I was watching the podcast. It was the first one back from the summer. They said that they were going to be expanding this Game Over thing. So I literally Googled like what Game Over was. I saw Andrew's stream and I thought, oh, that's cool. And they said, okay, we're going to have this open. Go to our website, submit like your monologue video or whatever by the last day of September. And it was one of those things that just kind of went out of my mind. And I was like, oh, that would be cool. But I'm never going to get in. I mean, you can't get Leafs tickets. You like, there's so many Leafs fans that are all competing for like a voice that I was like, who the heck am I? Like, I'm just some queer kid living out. I'm 34 years old. I'm just some queer person living out in Etobicoke, like minding my own business, going to work every day. Like, why would anyone want to listen to me? But on the last day, my wife and my sister actually thanked both of them for getting me here, because they actually said, like, well, just go for it. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. The worst thing they say is no. And I said, okay. So I literally filmed a monologue, like, in my living room. It took me like 8 tries to do it. I had to send my wife for a walk because I can't do it in front of her. And I submitted it, and I just said, okay, well, I'm just going to see what happens. And so that was a Friday. On Sunday night, I don't remember where I was. I think I was at home, and I got a text message from Andrew Berkshire saying, hi, Lauren, this is Andrew Berkshire from SDPN. We were wondering if you were able to come in or have a Zoom interview tomorrow, because we would like to talk to you about Game Over as one of the hosts. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So it was like a 10-minute Zoom call where I saw everybody. It was like, I took a screen cap of it just because I was like, no one's ever can believe me if I don't get this. Of me, Steve, Adam, Jesse, Andrew, I think it was just that, and then me. And I was like, thanks very much. Keep that for forever. And then, so I have this 10-minute interview. I don't hear anything. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I didn't get anything. Saturday afternoon, so a week after I submit the video, like 8 days after I submit the video, I'm literally at Winners trying on like a button-up shirt. And I'm in the change room. And I get a text from Andrew. Hey, Lauren, are you able to jump on a Zoom video real quick? And I was like, well, I'm not going to wait till I get home because my anxiety is going to cause a car accident. So I'm in the change room, like in the little cubicle with this new shirt on. And my wife is actually in the cubicle beside me, eavesdropping on this whole thing. So I'm like, I have my phone like this. And it's like, again, Andrew, and I screen cap it in case, I don't get the job and I can say that this really happened. And he's like, I would love for you to join the show. And I was like, what? Like, it was like the loading wheel was playing on my face. I just stood there stunned. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I would love to join. And meanwhile, I can hear my wife like slapping on the door, like losing her mind. And I'm trying to play it cool, right? I'm like, yeah, cool. No big deal. This is so great. I'm so excited. And I hung up and I was like, ah! It was great. And so I got outside. I called my sister. They told me I can't tell anyone because they were going to announce it on the show later that week. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I need you to buy me a $1,500 laptop because I don't have the equipment for this. I have since paid her back. Thank you, Mom. But it all happened very quick. Like from the day I applied, it was the last day. 3 days later, hey, here's an interview. 5 days later, hey, you got the job. And it's been nothing but amazing ever since. Like, I can't say enough about the people that we work with. We have this new thing this season where we actually get to work with people from like the other markets. So we have like Game Over head to head now. So the first game of the season for the Leafs was actually the Leafs versus the Habs, which was convenient. So it was actually me and Andrew Berkshire, and that was the first show we ever did together. So we get to like talk to other fans from other markets, but we get to talk to like our own fans, and we get to talk about things that we care about, right? Like as SDPN, we don't know when to do the Game Over for all of the teams, but like last year we did like an International Women's Day stream. We did a Pride stream. We did a draft day stream. We did a trade deadline stream, and we got, those are all equal, right? Like they're given the same amount of exposure on SDPN, the draft, the trade deadline, Pride, International Women's Day, and I think we did an Indigenous recognition one as well, because it was just like while SDPN is about, originally it was only about hockey, and now it's about like, you know, car racing and basketball and all these other podcasts that SDPN gets to be a part of. You know, I get to, as this queer person that 18 months ago thought that the most that they could do was volunteer in like their local, you know, their local place that helps the community. Like in Toronto, it's a place called the 519 on Church Street. And it's like a center where queer youth can go and get assistance, where queer people can get assistance from people in the community and everything else. And I thought that was all that I was going to be able to do, was do something on a very small thing. And even though this is still a very small niche, and you know, sometimes hockey doesn't love you back as much as you want, as much as we love it. This feels like, even though I'm contributing something as a Leaf fan, I like to think I'm contributing in that way, but I get to contribute in a really small way to the queer community, because maybe some queer kid, you know, in the province of Ontario, like where I grew up, only an hour and a half away, like I was very sheltered as a kid. Like there was like 3 queer kids in my high school. I was one of them, and the other one was my first girlfriend. Like it was a pocket-sized community. So it's, you know, sometimes what I want to do is I just want someone to say, oh, they're kind of different. Maybe I'm different too. And maybe that they can see that and think that that's okay, because it is. It's okay. It's okay. And that's all I want to do as part of being part of an SDPN thing. And, you know, being able to come on with you fine folk and be able to talk about, you know, tough things right at the beginning. And then we get to talk about hockey that we all love. And then, you know, we get to talk about what it means to be able to lend our voices to the community that we love so much, right? Because it is special to feel like maybe someone will listen, and maybe that you can be, you know, what you wanted as a kid to hear. Because heck, I wish there were people like me in media talking about the Leafs when I was growing up, because I didn't think people like me existed.
Whew, you make me emotional again.
Oh, sorry.
And she will get emotional.
That damn soapbox.
This
Lauren.
emotional sport.
Listen, hockey is probably the softest sport in existence. I don't care what these players say. Hockey players cry the most out of any athlete I've seen.
They're probably the most upset, like after a loss.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen like baseball. I've never seen like baseball players cry. Football, not
like
really.
The pointless fights that happen.
Maybe like the
1
World
minute
Cup
left in the game.
Maybe the World Cup, like when it's people's like last shot.
Yeah, soccer
That's
players, football players, I should say. On that topic about, you know, having that representation growing up, I've been wondering if you saw the news about the Kraken athletic trainer that put out the letter to himself.
I did.
And I kind of just wanted to ask your opinion on that whole. Did you read the whole thing?
I saw his name. I'm gonna look it up right now, because now I feel bad that I didn't do more research. I did see it.
It's Justin Rogers.
Justin Rogers.
Yes.
First of all, Justin, welcome to the Outside of the Closet Club. My friend, we are happy to have you. I love it. I think it's the best thing I think it's great for the sport, and I think that it's the best FU that the NHL had to post that and actually mean it. Like, not 8 weeks
They didn't
after.
mean it though.
I know, but
they just had to post it. Yeah.
I know, but maybe an alien came from outer space and they didn't know what happened with the Pride Tape thing, and that was the first thing that they saw. That's how I lie to myself.
They had like the what is it called? The Men in Black.
Yeah. Like the pen with the light.
They just retconned their whole mishap. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I hate that the NHL is suddenly like, we're inclusive, and all of us queer fans are like,
where?
Yeah.
Show us where the inclusion is.
Like, I feel like Gordon Ramsay just like pinching the bridge of his nose and just being like, you fucking donkey. Like,
no, I'm envisioning that 2 toast and then like, what are you?
Yeah. An idiot sandwich. Yeah. And that's the thing. Here's the thing though, like, and this is maybe why I'm grateful that they had to post something, was because they were always on the wrong side of this. Like, from the moment they said it wasn't going to be allowed anymore, from the moment that all transpired, they deserve every ounce of crap that they get from it, because it was the wrong decision. And I bet you a lot of people in the NHL knew it was a wrong decision, but either didn't say anything, felt like they couldn't say anything, or maybe they did say anything, in which case, I'm sorry that your boss didn't listen to you, because you were in the right, because there was no reason for this to occur. And for them to have to now turn around and do a full 180, all it does is embarrass them. And I'm glad that they're embarrassed, because it's embarrassing that we have had to deal with this. And I'm glad that there is a little bit of comeuppance for them, because now they have to turn around and they have to recognize, oh, we did something wrong. Even if they can't say it, even if they will never admit it, I'm glad that they're doing the right thing now. And I'm glad that their crappy ass protest and the decision that they made was not even a quarter of a business year. Not even one of their quarters was like fully enveloped by that decision. You know what I mean? Like, at no point was it ever going to have actual permanence. And I hope that they learned their lesson. That they were
really
on the
haven't
wrong.
though.
I know. But again, maybe this time I'll be lucky.
No, I mean, like when all that stuff came down about them like retracting from like the warm-up jerseys and stuff, like, I mean, I've been saying again and again that, you know, it's honestly like the Big Brother NHL, like I've kind of lost like hope at that level.
Right.
But I'm looking at the team level. Like, I know that there's certain things that, even as much as the teams want to do, Big Brother is going to come in and pull it away. It's going to use their power to be like, no, you can't do that.
Right.
But there's infinite ways that, despite the unfortunate that the warm-up jerseys are no longer going to be able to be worn on the ice, like, there's infinite ways that you can continue to put it out in the world, show your support,
Yep.
get into the community, engage with, you know, organizations and stuff like that. And so I'm kind of at the point where it's just this whiplash of back and forth, like beyond horrendous with the whole Pride tape ban. Like, I'm exhausted at the NHL level, but I'm looking at the teams, like, which of these teams are going to realize that at the end of the day, it's like people that are just like, oh, just stick to hockey, blah, blah, blah. Like, hockey at the professional level needs the support of fans. And as much as those bigoted people think that queer folks are like such a minority in this world, like, the teams that realize that they need to grow and to diversify and to be inclusive, I think it's going to show in a big way. Yep. And like the Seattle Kraken, for example, with like doing nothing but be supportive of Justin Rogers. Like, I really loved the part in like the article. Like, there were several people like Grubauer, Maddie Beniers,
Eberle,
Jordan Eberle. Like Nessa knows that like anytime there is a statement that gets put out about like Pride Night, like I am like listening very intently for someone to say LGBTQ and to not have to follow that up with Military Appreciation Night,
Yep.
with Hockey Fights Cancer. It's like, because now I'm like, you're just reading a cue card somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, say something beyond.
Say something with meaning.
Yeah, say something with substance. And it's like, when I read that article that was written and supportive of Justin Rogers coming out, and just the support that he had from the Seattle Kraken, like, one of the quotes that I remember very clearly is from Maddie Beniers, and how he said when he was growing up, like at the high school level, this was just normal to be inclusive and accept folks and just not be a homophobic bigot. Yep. And that is what needs to be said. And like, I'm looking for more teams who are going to go in this direction, where we are beyond the hockey talk of like, oh, hockey is for everybody, XYZ inclusive night. Like, sure, I agree, blah, blah, blah. I'm a robot. I'm going to put on the sweater. And then when the game starts, then, you know,
Yep.
that's
peeling the pride stuff off
here.
the day that it's over, right? Corporate pride. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, low key, I actually am a secret Kraken fan. I actually have. It's the only other it's the only other hockey jersey I own a Kraken jersey.
Because it's sweet.
That helps. It does help that they are run very well and that they do seemingly give a damn. That's a breath of fresh air, and I totally agree. Like, listen, I I think most queer people, when Travis Dermott wore pride tape anyway, we were all like, I guarantee you, there's gonna be like a 500% increase in the rest of 2023 of Travis Dermott jerseys, and like, I mean, I don't know if he's gonna see any profit from that, and that's not the point, but like, I want the more players that are like that, the more we support them, right? Like, even though Luke Prokop is only in the minors right now, like, if and when he does get an opportunity to actually work as well as a member of the Nashville Predators, like, how many people do you think are going to join and get like Prokop jerseys, right? And hey, listen, yeah, exactly. And hey, you don't
even though it's such an awful color.
Hey, it's better than like Oilers. Let's just talk about that. You know, the fact of the matter is, even though Nashville is unfortunately set in Tennessee, which is, even though I'm Canadian, I unfortunately know about this, not the friendliest place towards gay people. I hope that they sort of rub it in the nose of the city, because what you said at the beginning there, Jay, about, you know, it's hard to love the NHL when they just so blatantly miss it. And I don't want to give them props. I would actually rather give props to other hockey communities that do pride better. Like, I can't wait for the PWHL Pride Nights. Like, light me on fire. I can't wait. Like, the Brisbane hockey team, I think a couple years ago, had one of the best pride jerseys I've ever seen. Even the other day, there was a Cyclones, I can't remember what city it was, the Cincinnati Cyclones. They did their pride night, and it was like amazing. Their pride jersey was great. So instead of like highlighting, while I also want to bring to light the fact that the NHL has crapped the bed regarding pride nights, you don't have to buy their pride jersey to make your jersey a pride jersey. And a perfect example of that, my good friend Robert Molloy on Pride Night last year, actually took one of his Tavares jerseys and with colored duct tape made like a Pride jersey, like filled in the numbers with like rainbow and everything, and it looked so good. It looked so good, so good. It was so good, and I want them to bring.
But was it good?
Yeah, a little bit. And even though you know the Leafs aren't, and all the other teams aren't going to be able to practice them, I do think that that's a short-term thing. I think that once the Gary's out and someone that was born in this millennia is actually in charge of what's going on, then improvements are going to be made, right? Like, don't get me wrong, if we make a really quick comparison, like, the NBA is not perfect, but Adam Silver, who is basically the Gary Bettman of the NBA, came out and said, hey, we're not accessing our youth the same way, so we're going to do more to reach the young people so that we can get more people to watch hockey. Not only is hockey not inclusive, they're not doing anything, at least in Canada, to try and make hockey more inclusive to anybody, not even the queer community, but like to kids, to new Canadians, like these huge swaths of people where hockey is a part of Canada. And so many people are coming to Canada as new Canadians, which we're happy to have them. And they're not getting an opportunity to learn about it because it's impossible to follow. It's almost impossible to play in Canada unless you're willing to fork out a whole bunch of money, because there's no incentives to try and make it more accessible for young people. And it's being lost a little bit. And it's added, unfortunately, to the laundry list of things that the NHL is not good at. And I'm just hoping and praying for the day that Gary is leaving is coming sooner, because so much of all of this crap is hopefully better once he leaves. Like, whoever takes after him, I can't imagine it's going to be any worse. Like, you know, like,
I gotta hope. That feels the way? I gotta be hopeful that it can't get worse when he leaves.
Like, it can't go backwards. It's already so far behind all of the other major sports. Like, at some point, someone smarter has to be in the driver's seat. Someone that's not just a corporate lawyer.
Well, here's to today when we can start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. Well, if you ever need someone to scream from it, just tell me. Because I'll come on and I'll I'll lie to you in the most friendly way I can.
Sing
Miss
cabaret for
Jones.
us.
Use your Steve Dangle energy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. Well, I think that's all we kind of had for you today.
No, thank you for having
I know
me.
we could probably like talk for hours and hours, but as the podcast's sole post-production editor,
it's all good.
I'm going to cut it here.
I totally get it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for coming on, Lauren. We had a lovely time speaking with you. And as always, I am your host, Jay.
I'm co-host Nessa. Thanks again for joining us, Lauren. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Goodbye, all.
Bye.